This is the Miller Philosopher, and in the last video I talked about how Caranthir, being the harshest, the most hot-tempered, and honestly the most I will throw hands first and ask questions never of the Sons of Feanor, is also the most underrated because of his character development. I also pointed out how Haleth, the leader of the Halidin, was also one of the major reasons for this and why he at least modified his view on other races. Humanity at least, and if not to Sindar entirely. I said before that the reason Caranthir would even risk his own life to save a race that he previously had zero respect for was because he saw something in Haleth and her people that reminded him of himself and the Noldor. Their tenacity, their fuck all, we're not dying today attitude, their refusal to bow even when staring annihilation down the blade of an orc. So, how is it then that these mortals, or should I say possibly this mortal woman, almost fixed one of the Sons of Feanor? Haleth and Caranthir being shipped is something new. Fans have been doing that for years, and some of them doing it with Olympic-level enthusiasm. And on the surface, it makes total sense, in a traditional storybook way. You got the dashing young prince rushing in to rescue a beautiful woman about to be killed by monsters, and through their shared struggle form a connection that neither of them has ever felt before. Yeah, that's some classic Daisy level shit right there. But I want to break this down on 4 levels. Level 1. Why the Halidin spoke to Caranthir personally in a way that others did not. Other than being Team Noldor by default, Caranthir respects strength. His people were regarded, in his eyes, as one of the strongest, if not the strongest of the High Elves after all. They didn't just accept what was handed to them, they took it, shaped it, reforged it, and said this is ours now. To quote the Terminator franchise,
"No fate. No fate but what we make."
And that's exactly what his father embodied. When the Valar unjustly exiled Feanor from Tirion, after Fingelfin had supposedly undermined him, yes, there's an argument to be made there, Feanor didn't just sit there and take it. When Finwë was murdered by Morgoth and the Silmarillion stolen, Feanor didn't wait around for justice. When the Teleri tried to stop the Noldor from pursuing what they believed was their righteous cause, the Noldor pushed their way through anyway, even in Teleri blood. They persisted, even in literal defiance of the Valar, to their fucking faces. All of these things shaped Caranthir's values and priorities. It was a litmus test by which he judged other peoples. The dwarves, they passed, if begrudgingly. The Sindar, fuck no. In his eyes, they failed it miserably. They had been pushed back, defeated, and were hiding behind walls and enchantments, waiting for someone to save them, and not even knowing if that was going to happen in the first place. But the Halidin, they passed this litmus test with flying colors. Level 2. Haleth herself. I've talked before about this woman in other videos, and this is the woman, as I just said, who almost fixed one of the Sons of Feanor. And honestly, if you're a Tolkien fan who believes a woman doesn't need a man for anything, then Haleth is your Middle-earth patron saint. Even Hera from the War of the Rohirrim film carries several of Haleth's traits. To understand what Caranthir respected in Haleth, you have to understand Haleth herself beyond just the biographical points. Haleth became a strong leader because she had no choice. Her father and brother were killed and devoured by orcs, and watching that all happen, along with seeing the same fate fall on others of her people, is traumatic as hell. While the Silmarillion doesn't dive into her inner thoughts, based on what we know from other characters with similar experiences and from real life, it's easy to imagine her wanting to process this grief while also never having the time to actually grieve. She probably didn't actually get a moment to breathe until much later when she had led her people west to the borders of Doriath, and even then that was with more casualties and trials. Haleth never got a break. So, is it any wonder then that she never married? something she pretty much was very much known for, if not primarily. The Halidin as a whole are strong, stubborn, and isolationist by nature. They're antisocial. You mix that cultural background with the personal tragedy and battlefield experience, and you get Haleth. Caranthir sees not just a people fighting against impossible odds, but also a woman fighting fiercely because she's already lost so much. None of the Valar were going to come to save her. And the Sindar, thanks to Thingol, sure as hell weren't either. And I think this resonates with Caranthir, who remembers what happened with his own father. Level 3. Could Haleth have fixed Caranthir romantically? This is where we look at Caranthir's parents. Feanor was notorious for his presumption and arrogance, as well as his genius and skill, traits that backed up that arrogance. You can dislike him all you want, but you can't deny his accomplishments. Even the Valar couldn't fully understand him nor how he did what he did. And not even among the Noldor could those same feats be repeated, or, for that matter, by the Valar themselves, which they openly admit. There were only two people capable of controlling him: Finwë, his father, and Nerdanel, the woman that he married. Now, I did a dedicated video on Nerdanel already, and I'll include that below, but the short version is this. Nerdanel was arguably just as gifted and restless as Feanor. She understood him in ways that the others did not, and because of that shared connection, love blossomed. And she was the only one who actively tried to rein him in when he started to lose his shit. It ends tragically, as we all know, but the point still stands. I see a lot of Feanor and Nerdanel's dynamic echoed in a Caranthir-Haleth ship. On paper, it's perfect. But here's the problem. Haleth is not Nerdanel at her core. Haleth is dealing with a shit ton of trauma while trying to survive a genocidal war being waged against her people. And I don't care how gorgeous the Eldar are, that's not going to override that. Nerdanel matched Feanor in many ways, but she was still patient where he was not. And Haleth is nothing but stubborn as well. More stubborn because of the war. The idea of submitting to Caranthir, even if she did develop feelings for him, just doesn't gel. At best, a relationship might work for a little while. Caranthir would find someone who understands him, someone who challenges him, while Haleth finds someone who helps her heal, someone who eases that emotional isolation that she's carrying. But this would not last. Let's leave out the mortality card for a moment. The Halidin are isolationists by nature and are not willing to submit to anyone, even if their leader might personally want to. They would eventually want to leave, and they would need Haleth to lead them. And, just as the Oath of Feanor binds Caranthir and his brothers, so too does the memory of her father and brother's deaths, and the mantle of leadership that they had taken on. Their family bonds would literally tear them apart, just like Caranthir's parents, which I'm sure would bring up a lot of pleasant memories for the Elf Lord. And then level 4. The Curse of Mandos. I don't think the Curse of Mandos would allow any of Feanor's immediate family to experience any happiness, if I'm honest, especially after what they did to the Teleri. And had Haleth had a happy relationship with Caranthir, then the Curse of Mandos would have fallen much more heavier upon her and her people as well, and honestly that probably would have led to their eventual annihilation entirely. So, yeah. So, the question then, could Haleth have fixed Caranthir? Yes, and she already partially did. But romantically, no. Their connection could be powerful and even meaningful and transformative, but it's not sustainable. And honestly, that's what makes this so damn compelling and what makes a ship between them so powerful. It's a what could have been that still leaves a mark on their characters and compels fans to explore that avenue where Tolkien decided not to. But let me know your own thoughts below. This is the Middle Philosopher. Have a good day.